He's a regular on Hardball with Chris something. Frank Gaffney was the executive producer of the documentary Islam versus Islamism, Voices from the Muslim Center. He's the lead author of a book called War Footing, one of the seminal books over the last decade and how Americans should think about national security threats. He's a founding member of the Set America Free Coalition, working to get us off Middle East oil. In 2010, Gaffney authored a book entitled Sharia, the Threat to America. Frank Gaffney is an expert on ideological warfare, on war policy, on ballistic missile defense, on terrorism and counterterrorism, and on the range of threats to the national security of the United States of America. Patriot, warrior for liberty, our friend Frank Gaffney.
Thank you. Thank you. We're told that this next election is going to be all about domestic politics. Jobs, the economy, whether in fact we're able to sort of get the cart out of the ditch that Barack Obama has firmly put it in. And that's also, that's almost certainly true, that all of that is going to feature prominently. I'm going to go out on a very big limb here, folks. And I'm going to tell you that I think actually this election is going to turn on something different. It's going to turn on the fate of the free world, which is going to be hanging in the balance big time by this time next year. I hope I'm wrong about this. I mean, I really do hope I'm wrong about this. But I have to tell you, I think we are at the cusp of the next horrific war, most immediately for the survival of the state of Israel, and probably for an awful lot of other things that we care about. Larry Greenfield is one of those people who has been working tirelessly for many years to help people in this community and many others understand how much is at stake for us if we allow Israel to be destroyed or even endangered. And I pray that we'll recognize that in the days ahead, because it's coming. And in part, it's coming because of Barack Obama and what he has been doing to signal to our enemies and Israel not only a lack of resolve, but an impotence. Daylight between ourselves and our friends in Israel, that unfortunately the people who have wanted to destroy it for years and who would like to do the same to us interpret as an invitation to aggression. And at the same time, as you probably have noticed, we're looking at a region that is now increasingly in the hands of people who embrace something they call Sharia. And Larry was kind enough to mention a book we've done on the subject. I think we have copies of it here for you. The problem is that those guys, whether they're the Iranian strain of it or the Sunni strain of it, have one thing in common, and that is they believe it is God's will that we will be forced to submit to that program of Sharia. And so they see Israel as kind of a, I don't know, speed bump on the way to getting to the rest of us. And the last thing you want to do is to be signaling to them that they're right. That what you're actually now prepared to do is to submit. Whether it's to submit by refusing to see the danger they represent, whether it's even to refuse to talk about the danger that they represent, or whether it's to refuse to do something about it. And what I really just wanted to share with you in these precious few minutes is how we are right now making decisions, as the congressman has said, that aren't just going to shape our kids and our grandkids' future, they're going to shape our future. We're making decisions right now in Washington specifically that will determine whether every bad guy on the planet thinks it's their time. Whether it's the Sharia guys, who I'm particularly concerned about, or the Chinese, or the Russians, or Hugo Chavez, or any number of others who at this moment are reading us as weak, as irresolute, and as basically pulling back from our interests and our responsibilities. And what I just want to see is whether you guys, representing a community of people who probably per capita do more to shape what we think, what we say, what we do, than any other Americans in this country, whether you're going to let us make these choices, whether you're going to have us go down this road without doing everything you can to prevent those signals from being sent with, I'm afraid, the most dangerous, the most deadly of consequences. And if you are not prepared to let that happen, if you want to know what you can do, let me give you a couple of ideas. The congressman is able to tell you better than I, but in about 4 weeks' time, a super committee made up of a dozen of his colleagues in the House and a dozen guys on the Senate side are going to determine whether we eviscerate the national security capabilities of the United States. And I use that term advisedly. As you probably know, or maybe you don't, because you surely wouldn't have heard about it in the press, we've already arranged to take almost $500 billion out of the investment we make in our national security. And I'm talking about everything from paying our troops to ensuring they have the equipment they need to save our lives, as well as theirs, in some of the most dangerous places in the world. Whether they're going to be trained properly, whether they're going to be able to feed their families or house them, or have the other benefits that we've promised them if they were willing to go, in some cases now, did you know this? In the course of a career, 4, 5, even 6 times into combat for us? We're a precious close to adding to that $500 billion another $600 billion in cuts, in a kind of meat axe that will be used when the sequestration sword of Damocles falls as a result of the super committee not being able to get its act together, or the Congress not being able to approve it, or for some other reason, people deciding that's what we want to do. We want to make the defense capabilities of this country the bill payer for the wasteful spending we've been doing, for the bloated entitlements, for the other reckless actions of our government. And if you don't think that's a wise idea, if you don't think that you want to risk your life, or maybe your children's lives, or your grandchildren's lives on that bet, then I'd like to see you after this, because we need your help making sure the American people know that's exactly what's in store. I have the feeling there's enough horsepower in this room when it comes to creative messaging, when it comes to branding, when it comes to telling stories, to make all the difference in this fight, which is going to be resolved in the next 4, or maybe, if we're lucky, 8 weeks. I'm not asking you to spend the rest of your life on this. It'd be nice. I'm not asking you to behave as though everything you actually care about, that brings you here tonight, that has you talking and working and trying to do things with each other for the rest of your life. I'm asking you to give me the next 8 weeks to help tell this particular story, to help engage the American people in what may determine whether the war I see coming actually makes it here, I mean here, or any place else in the world. Whether it's this Sharia business, which I believe is an unbelievably toxic threat, or whether it's, the Chinese imperialists, or whether it's just some grab bag thing like an Iranian plot to go blow up parts of Washington. I'm asking you to get involved in trying to prevent that from happening to us and a lot of other people that we care about. And here's the proposition. If together we could figure out a way to offset the story that is now basically with us everywhere you turn, that we got this terrible fiscal problem, and we do. And we got a deficit that's out of control, and we do. And we've got an administration that's putting the damn ox in the ditch, and we do. And help us broaden the lens here so that we all understand that it's a bigger problem than that. The stakes are infinitely higher. And for those of you who in particular come to this, as I know a number of you do, from that Tea Party perspective, you come to this because you love the Constitution of the United States. You love the country that it's made possible, right? Right? Well, guess what? The people I'm talking about don't love the Constitution of the United States. They don't love the government that it makes possible. They don't like our way of life. They don't much like us. And so what I'm asking you to do is to go forth from here, whether it's in connection with the Tea Party movement, which I think is the best thing to have come along in my memory, whether it's ensuring that people like Mike Kelly keep coming back to the Congress and changing what it does, whether it's ensuring, as he said, that the Senate of the United States comes back into the hands of people who have the same principles and values that we do, or whether we do all of that and we take back the White House and ensure that it's in friendly hands again. Frankly, we need to do all of that. We cannot afford to do less. But I'm convinced that telling this story to the American people, telling it truthfully, telling it straight, you don't need to embellish it. You just need to do it as well as you know how to do it. To tell them that this country is in peril, its constitution, its form of government, its way of life, its very liberty is on the line, and it isn't just from red ink. We need you to help us tell that story, and if we do, my friends, I think we may be able to stave off that war I see coming. But we certainly are going to put this country in a better position to deal with it if it does come. And more to the point, we're going to deserve to have the House. We're going to deserve to have the Senate. We're going to deserve to have the White House, which we won't. If we persist in, as I'm sorry to tell you, some of our conservative friends are saying, that this national security thing no longer applies. I was so pleased that Larry, when he came up, bared his chest and had there emblazoned a picture of the man I had the privilege of serving. And all I'm really asking you to do is take us back to the days when a man from this community, a man who showed that you could be a Republican in Hollywood, took the skills that made him what? The great communicator. And brought to Washington what? An ability to articulate the necessity, the absolute necessity of peace through strength. We need it now. We need your help. Will you help? Will you help now? God bless you. Thank you.